Hi, this is Quintessential 2, and I'm back to show you a intro to creating a trigger. Now, a trigger is an action that you're taking. You are telling something on that screen to do something when something occurs, whether the timeline starts, the timeline ends, when audio starts, if a person clicks on an object, you know, those are different things that are there's something's going to happen once this person actually clicks or does something on that slide. So let's take a look at it. Here's a slide that I've created here, and I've indicated, I just created a shape. I just went here, insert, and I went to shapes, and I put a shape here, some text, and I said that please click here to see slide layer 1. I have some layers over here. So you have a main slide, which is the one we're on, and instead of creating a new slide, such as a separate slide, I've decided to just create slide layers, which is very, very common in e-learning. You can create layers instead of creating a bunch of different slides. Maybe you have a lot of tabs and you want to show some interactivity on the various tabs or more information, which we can talk about at a later date. But for right now, I've created a main layer and I've created an intro 1 layer. Okay, I've named these layers. It's good practice to name your objects. I've named this. If you go to your timeline here, I call that text 1. So that it's easy for you to keep track of what's going on. When you're doing any type of editing, you can keep track of everything if you have them named something that you can easily identify with. Okay. Over here on the side, we have triggers. And I went in and I created a trigger that I called to do something when the person clicks on this slide. So let's take a look. What am I telling this to do? This is called the trigger wizard. And the basics of the trigger wizards are the actions, the layers, the wins, and these are just the basic actions about a layer or something I want the person to do, which is to show a layer when they click on that box. This is called conditions. And that's for a little bit more advanced training, because when we start working with variables in a lesson, we can actually have something to occur if certain things happen. That's why it's called conditions. So we can have certain things occur when we have certain things happen, or it could be after a person has made a certain amount of selections on something, then this action can take place. So let's think of the trigger as in something that's going to happen, something that you're telling it to do. The action is the first thing you're looking at. The instructions I placed in that box was to show layer 1 or intro 1, which is the next layer, when the person clicks on that rectangle. So these are your common, as they call, common changes. These are the common changes that you usually would use when you're creating triggers. There's a lot of different things you can do here. I specifically want to show a layer. Okay, you can have certain things to happen when the media is starting, or make it play media. You can exit a course, which I'll show you an exit page in a minute. If you're dealing with variables, you can have things go on here, or you want to pause at a certain point. Maybe you have created a quiz, and these are some different things that you can have happen with a quiz. These are all things that can happen with a trigger. These are all action things that can take place. So let's start with the show layer, which is that's the action. I want you to show a layer. Okay, if you remember, please click here to see layer 1. What layer? Okay, I have a layer created and it's called intro 1. I can also insert another layer if I want to at this point in time. But right now I've already created my layer and it's called intro 1. When the user clicks, I can set it to double click. I can set it to specifically a right click, or maybe to click outside the box, or whenever the mouse is hovering over the object. Okay. These other items here, again, we'll get into those a little bit later. Right now, we're just going to focus on a very simple trigger to create. Okay, so it's going to be when the user click on what's the object. Well, the object is this box here, this rectangle that I called and named it text one. All right, so we have all the items here. Let's see if this works. Let's go to view, preview this slide. Here's the box. I got the pointed arrow going on here. Oh, but when I go inside the box, it turns to a finger. So something should take place at this time. I'm going to click, and here we go. This is the object or the person I have selected on the next trigger. Okay, so let's close this for a second. All right. Now, there's a couple of things going on here that we haven't really touched on, and that is, well, how do you create a layer? One thing here, you click right here, and we can create a new layer if we want. We can duplicate a layer, whichever one is selected. So if I go here and let's say I want to duplicate that layer, I can duplicate it, or I can get rid of it. All right, depends on, maybe I don't want that layer or I don't need that layer anymore. All right. When we got to this next layer, we should be able to go back to the main layer of this slide. All right. So how do you do that? Let's go create another trigger. Whenever we want to do something, we're going to go to the trigger wizard, and tell it this is what I want to do. So right now, I'm going to say I want you to hide this layer when the user clicks on what exactly? Well, let's say we have some instructions to click on character one. Okay. And I'm going to add some instructions here just to make sure it's clear to the user. There's a text box, and I'm going to say click on the character to return to the main layer, the main slide. All right. So those are the instructions for here. So we create a trigger to say I want you to hide this layer, which is intro one, when the user clicks on character one. Okay. And if you notice, like I mentioned before, when it comes to where do you want them to click, the items will actually show up. Do I want them to click that, or do I want them to click on the character? In this case, the character. All right, so let's see if that works. View, preview this slide. Here are the instructions. This is the object. It's saying to please click here to see slide layer one. I'm going to click in here, click the character to return to main slide, and there we go. So let's go back over that one more time. Triggers are going to tell you, or are going to do something. When you create a trigger, you're saying you want something to occur when certain things happen, depending on what it is specifically you want to see done. In this case here, I created a box. Okay, I put some text in here. I created an intro slide. I've also created another text box here with instructions on how to get back to the main slide. So there's two triggers here. Hide this, well, it only should be one trigger here. Hide this layer. I don't need both, so let me go get rid of this. I just need one layer. That was a mistake. So when you're getting rid of triggers, you just delete the selected trigger. So when the person gets to this slide, I can have them, give them instructions to go back to the main slide. They would have to click on this character. All right. Those are the main things to do when creating a trigger. Let's create a second trigger together. All right. I want to create another, I'm going to duplicate this trigger. This slide. So I'm just going to hit this, and I have a duplicate copy. And if you notice, certain things are showing up in the background that's not here. And why is that? If you go to your timeline and you see base layer, you have text here. Text box 1 is showing. So we don't really want that to show. So let's get rid of that. And what else is showing over here? We got the character. We're going to keep her there for right now, all right? Or actually, better yet, we're going to put in another character. Insert, go to characters. I'm going to go to photogenic. And I'm going to put in, who's here? All right, here's Laura. Okay, here she is. And instead of, well, we're going to keep, they can click on her to go to the next. So the instructions here is still the same. We're going to, I'll put in the middle here. Click on the character to return to the main slide. We're going to call this one Intro 2. Right click, call this one Intro 2. Okay, and we're going to create our trigger. We want to hide this layer. We don't need to see it anymore when the user clicks on, and this is still called character 1. I didn't rename her or anything like that. So the same thing should occur between the triggers. Now, one thing we have to remember here, we only have one trigger for this slide here, and that is to go to intro 1 when the user clicks here. We need another trigger to have us to go to intro 2. So let's go to insert. Let's create another triangle. And please click here to see slide layer 2. While the object is selected, let's create a trigger. We want to, when they click on that particular box, we want them to go to intro 2. So let's show layer, intro 2, when user clicks, which one? Rectangle 1, text 1, rectangle 1, which one? That, okay. Let's preview and see if that happens. All right, I'm gonna click this first. And I didn't get rid of this on that layer, so I'm gonna have to get rid of this. I forgot to get rid of that, so we'll go back and do that because I don't want that to show. Please click here. Here's that. We need to get rid of this second box here, so we'll go back and do that. But everything that we said we wanted to happen has occurred with creating that trigger. Now let's go back to intro 1, and as you can see in the background, what's still showing there. So we want to get rid of, this is the base layer, and when you click the down button, if you have it this way, everything's hidden from that layer. If you click here, you can see what's actually on the first, the main slide, which was a rectangle. We want to get rid of that rectangle, okay? Same thing here. We want to get rid of the rectangle from the base layer. And you can actually look up here and you no longer see it. So when you go to preview, it should be gone. Click here, then click back on the back here, and click here. That is all you need to do when it comes to creating a trigger. We were able to select our objects, put some information in there, and then you can look at your triggers over here in terms of what do you want that object to do? What do you want to take place when that when something happens on that object, in this instance? Okay, so that concludes our intro to triggers. I'll come back and we'll talk a little bit more regarding some more advanced functions with triggers, okay? Triggers and disabling the previous or the next buttons. Thanks.